What's up guys, welcome back to another episode of Monster Review, where we take a look at tech tips, and how-to videos. Today, I have something I want to chat about. So I tried Google Fi for 1 month. I actually planned on doing a long-term review for them, but I never made it past a month, and I'll get to that why in a bit. Let me start by saying I was on T-Mobile, and for those of you who know me, you probably know I've had T-Mobile on and off since 2006, but switched over in 2014 to Cricket and never looked back. So how did I end up back on T-Mobile? Well, the Cricket video I made was pretty popular. 3 years later, and I was still receiving comments on it. Mostly positive, but there were a couple of die-hard T-Mobile fans that thought T-Mobile deserved another shot. They argued that T-Mobile had been in the news a lot recently, and for good reason. Their service was on par with Verizon. Yeah, okay. But they were right. T-Mobile was in the news a lot, and they were somewhat right about the Verizon comment. OpenSignal did publish an article saying through users' data, they have determined that T-Mobile was on par with Verizon. So I jumped back onto T-Mobile to give them another shot and review my service with them. I never made that video because T-Mobile was actually no different from the previous years I've had them. They still sucked. They suck so bad that I had to get a cell spot signal booster, so I scrapped the T-Mobile project. I kept them for a while because I had family members on my plan that didn't live in the same city as me, so to switch everyone over back to Cricket would have been an inconvenience for us all. But my T-Mobile bill, although wasn't supposed to, all of a sudden kept fluctuating. Even after they promised that the T-Mobile One plan, which I had, has all taxes and fee included, so your bill is always the same. It got too much. So I decided to switch to a cheaper carrier. Both me and the wife had unlocked Pixel 2 XL phones. Here we are a month later. So the way they work is that you pay for the data you want. I went with 10 gigabyte for me and my wife, and if you go over 10 gigabyte, your bill won't be more expensive than said price. Speeds will be slowed down after 22 gigabyte. If you go under 10 gigabyte, Google Fi will refund you the data that you don't use. It sounds very interesting. Most data I use is about 6 gigs, and my wife usually uses around 4 gigs. So seeing that we both get a 10 gigabyte allowance, we should be golden. That 10 gig is actually shared between us. And if you look through their plan page, nowhere does it flat out say you share your data if you have more than one person on your plan. If you use a calculator, you select how much people you want on the plan, then select the data, and it gives you your total costs. But it doesn't say anywhere that the data is shared. Strike one. I decided to go on with it. So for my plan, it was $35 for 2 people for talk and text, then an extra $100 for the 10 gigs of data. If you use less than that, we'll get a refund. But that's a big if. Nonetheless, me and the wife agreed to cut down on our LTE usage so we can better gauge our monthly data usage and potential refund. With taxes, the entire bill came up to $140. So $140 for 2 people for 10 plus gigs of data and service from T-Mobile, Sprint, and US Cellular. I thought the triple provider would work out better for me because, after all, 3 is better than 1, right? Using OpenSignal to determine whose tower I was connected to, I found out that my phone would connect about 90% of the time to T-Mobile instead of Sprint or US Cellular. Like for example, I have a Sprint tower near my house, and a little further out is the nearest T-Mobile tower. For whatever reason, Google keeps me tied to that T-Mobile tower, even though a Sprint tower is closer. That same T-Mobile tower I had to use when I had T-Mobile. The same tower that forced me to get a cell spot signal booster because of all the weak calls. So that's strike 2. I wanted to monitor it longer, but after a while, the OpenSignal app stopped showing me individual T-Mobile and Sprint towers and instead would just show the tower I was connected to as a Google Fi tower. OpenSignal doesn't even acknowledge US Cellular towers, so I had no way to determine if I was connected to them or not. So I lost the ability to see if I was connected to Sprint or T-Mobile. So let's see. Google Fi at this point was expensive, but we're still pending a data refund, and service wasn't that much better than T-Mobile. There are 2 things though that I liked. For one, if you wanted data on your LTE iPad, you can get a data-only SIM from Google Fi, and it's no extra cost. And it will pull data from your data pool, and you're not limited to how many devices you get a data-only SIM card for. You could get one for your laptop, iPad, and smartwatch. This is the first time I've seen a free data add-on, and it works well. I got one for my iPad and I was able to watch my Netflix on the go. You could also tether your data with no issues too. So those are the two things I liked about Google Fi. You could also download the Hangout apps on your tablet and computer, and you can take or make calls on both. Kind of like what you can do with an iPad, Mac, and iPhone. Although Hangouts is going away, so no idea how long this will last. So at the end of the month, it was time to see our data usage and refund. What was it? 0. And that was saving as much data as possible. Gone are the days where we had only 200 megabytes of data to use. Unlimited data has changed and spoiled us. And if you're like me and have kids that need their Roblox and Ryan Toys review, then good luck saving data, man. It made no sense to give it another shot. One thing was clear, we'd go through 10 gigs in a month with no issues. So that means we could expect to never receive a refund on our data. But $140 is exactly what we paid T-Mobile for 3 lines. Now we only had 2. So Google Fi is turning out to be more expensive than T-Mobile. So what's our next option? Change carriers, of course. Cricket Wireless currently charges $80 a month for 2 lines with unlimited data. Sure, their speed is capped at under 3 megabits per second. And sure, their video streaming is limited to 480p. But that doesn't stop us from using our data. We're not running a server off our Pixel 2 XL. We don't need blazing fast speed. We don't need that 5G. 2 megabyte is more than enough for browsing web, podcasts, and video streaming. And hey, it's $80 a month. That's half of what Google Fi charged. And yeah, Cricket doesn't have their own towers. They're borrowing AT&T towers, but Google is borrowing T-Mobile, Sprint, and another lame carrier. And I'd much rather be borrowing AT&T towers than 3 lame carriers combined any day. Service is great, coverage is great, and I'm doing great saving $80 a month. How you doing? Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Hope you found it helpful. Be sure to give me a thumbs up if you found this video helpful. If you didn't and you thought it was awful, thumbs down work also. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.